Hi everyone, welcome to the Rangers Review post-match debrief. Chris Jack, we are debriefing our Rangers domestic win. It's not a league win, but a Rangers domestic win for the first time here since last season, isn't it? Rangers through to the Premier Sports Cup semi-final. That in and of itself actually feels like a subplot to the fact that Rangers won and Russell Martin won it on a day where there was many empty seats here and there was many people outside the front door. They got a crucial victory. Nico Raskin was right at the centre of it, perhaps predictably so, opened the scoring, then played a key role in creating the second goal. Hibs had a couple of chances and really the two big chances of the game. I know one, their goal was chopped off by VAR for handball when Martin Boyle had run through on goal, but they'd also, Kieran Bowie had fired over the top, and I think Boyle headed wide at 1-0. Second half was a bit more comfortable for Rangers. They probably came closest to adding a third and looked a lot better in the second half. A strange feeling talking about a Rangers win here, Chris, and a lot to sum up because in many ways it felt like the football was actually secondary to what was happening outside and that protest pre-match.
What's all the fuss about? It's all very straightforward. Rangers turn up, they win 2-0, everyone goes home happy. I think they will go home happier, they will not go home completely happy. There's obviously still many concerns, issues, problems, questions for Russell Martin, for his players, certainly for the directors in the hierarchy here, also Andrew Kavanagh at the game today. Russell Martin will take it as a big victory, he'll take it as a step forward, which he should do. Rangers were better, I think they deserve to win the game. I don't think we could argue that. Overall, still not great, was it? It was okay in spells, but I think he'll take a lot of heart from it. He'll take a lot of heart from the backing that he has had over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks even, because this is obviously not just a short-term issue. But as I said in my analysis piece, it's on the site. It's one game, it's one win. Rangers managers don't live or die on just one. He's not under pressure just because of one game, and one game is certainly not going to alleviate all that pressure. So we're back here on Thursday night. The stakes are just as high for him. Yeah,
agree in that. So the fact that we are kind of joking about the fact that it's a Rangers win tells you everything about how Rangers got here, and the protests, which we'll come on to pre-match. Again, they don't happen as a result of anything. Why do we talk about the game in isolation? Because we've not done that in about 5 months. And then we'll get on to Nico Raskin in particular, and then the wider consequences, the protests pre-match, and the fact that Andrew Kavanagh was here. A friend of the show, David Edgar, said to me sitting in the gantry, said Rangers take more risks in their build-up play than they do in the final third. And I actually thought that was quite a good description for what we saw today. Now, Rangers deserve to win, and it's important, I think, to state that, especially in the second half. I thought they were better. But for the first 40 minutes, it was an exercise in keep ball. And I think you saw there, for me, the limitations at points of what Martin's tried to do, because it's too control-orientated, and nothing's over the top of Hibs, nothing is turning the defence. Only really when they got the ball to the left and Jeji Gassama managed to run it as man, or Tello Asgard received the ball in the pockets, did they look at all dangerous. And maybe get slightly fortuitous with the fact that they don't go behind. They then get a breakthrough from a set piece, again something that hasn't really worked for them this season. Hibs were the far more dangerous team, it looked like, from set pieces coming into this game. But is it fair to say that first half was they were in control to a degree, but they needed a big moment, and they needed one of those marginal gains from set pieces that haven't come their way this season to go their way instead of the way of the opposition?
It feels like we've flipped quite a lot. We did a lot of these videos standing down here last season, and we were speaking about Philippe Clement's side that it was too end-to-end, it was too basketball, like they had no control. It was leaving themselves open to chance. Russell Martin is so far the other side, it's almost possession for possession's sake at times. I would like to see Rangers play with the handbrake off a wee bit more, if that's not too cliche for you.
Just turn the defence, but like variation surely is like what, if you're a Hibs defender, I think in that first 40 minutes
you know exactly what you're going to get, you know exactly what's coming at you. Every time Rangers get the ball, you know what the phases are going to be, you know how they're going to try and work it, and there's nothing really to worry you. The fact that it comes through a set piece, as you say, kind of sums up Rangers as an attacking force right now. Now, there have been 90 minutes here against Celtic without a shot on target. You were half an hour against Hearts before Asgard's one that I think was actually a cross rather than a shot. It forced the goalkeeper into action. they're still a side that don't create enough really good goal scoring opportunities and don't score enough goals. 2 goals today, as I said right at the top of the show, they deserve to win the game.
Yeah.
But even then, at half time, you've won the game, you've done enough. As long as you don't do anything daft in the first 15 minutes, you're going to go through. Go and play with a bit more freedom and a bit more expression and mix it up a bit more and go and get that third and fourth and go and try and really hammer home and make a point, but wasn't really there.
Not for you. I mean, Mikey Moore goes close, Gassam hits the bar. I'm trying to think outside of that. There's a
Shamiti one late on, it's through 1-on-1, you'd probably expect him to score, but
yeah, it is. I think the point you raised there is right, and we had it on the website earlier this week that their expected goals after 5 games was, I think, the 3rd lowest average per 90 in the league. And that translates to a lot of what you see is that they get themselves into a lot of good positions. I actually think even Jaden Magoma summed it up quite well, who I thought had a good game up until late on. But quite often he'd get the ball just behind us into pretty good areas in the first half, but then it would be like, right, let's keep it. And then you start going backwards, and that allowed Hibs to jump up. It felt like the game was never on their... They were also allowed to be on their toes instead of their heels. But we're maybe nitpicking a little bit. Nico Raskin, I've got a piece that was writing in the game for tomorrow, and just trying to sum up, like, how have we got here? How have we got to a place where Raskin's out the stadium against Celtic, he's in the stands against Hearts, standing ovation against Hibs? For me... Someone puts it to me over summer that there's going to be a bit of a clash here because Raskin is someone who doesn't really follow the script to the letter. He will be a bit spontaneous, he will try things, he will maybe move into different positions and not just wait on the ball as Martin kind of wants to in this rigid system, as you saw for the pass for the second goal. However, I would argue that all the trade-offs, when you consider the fact that he's a leader, he's a protagonist, and he's actually someone who allows other players to breathe because he takes ownership and responsibility. There was a moment late on where Oliver Antman almost scored a brilliant goal and he danced through a few players. And you can see someone like him has talent, but he's not ready yet to come in, start a game like this and lead that team with this crowd in his back. Raskin is one of the few players in this squad, the few players that Rangers have had over recent years who can do that. And that's why it's all the more maddening that it's taken them up to this point to be reinstated back in the team. It felt like a perfect encapsulation of, here's what you get when you have him in the team, here's why you absolutely need him in the team.
Turns out you play your best player and he plays very well and he helps you win games. I said to Derek during the week we did a show, it just feels like Rangers shooting themselves in the foot with this whole situation. You cannot tell me that the teams picked in the last couple of games when Raskin's not been here have been better with him out than they would have been with him in it. He's clearly one of the most talented midfielders in the squad, should be playing, showed today why he should be playing. And we've spoken a lot about the character of this team and the spine and that leadership quality. Now, the manager's mentioned that himself. Yeah. Rangers don't have a lot of people like that. They don't have a lot of guys that are as narky as Nico Raskin. Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that. No. Guys that are willing to, there's obviously ways and means to do it, and Rangers clearly feel that things are maybe stepped over the line, but guys that are just willing to call people out, that are willing to take responsibility, that are willing to challenge things when things are not going well, those conversations should be being had. And if you've got someone like Raskin, clearly a fan favourite, and the reaction around about here, I think the reaction to him being announced as the goal scorer almost got a bigger roar than the goal actually going in. People were pleased that it went in, and then they realised it was Nico and were even more pleased that it went in. So it's been, I think, a damaging episode for Rangers. I don't think it should have got to the situation that it did. Yeah. But he's here, he's still under contract, he's going to be a big part of this team going forward. Russell Martin has to find a way to get in his head and get the best out of him. Yeah,
it was interesting. He didn't actually really play as number 6. It was kind of Diomande and Raskin was out on the left, but then he moved to the right for the goal. And as you say, he has that, I think protagonist is the word for me. He, for better or for worse, will take on a bit of onus and responsibility, doesn't shirk away from it. I think, how many players have you seen shrink in an atmosphere like this in recent years, and he seems to grow in it? But also, like, how many of the best players at whatever level have a bit of personality and need managed, but then can take it out in the right way on the pitch? For me, the Raskin situation is a microcosm of many aspects of this summer as a whole. Buying a number 6 when... Or I know he didn't play at number 6 today, but rather than trying to build around him and work with him, bringing in Joe Rothwell so early, and Joe Rothwell in the stands today, presume he's injured, and Max Aarons has lost his place to James Tavernier. It feels like so many of these decisions haven't quite added up, and Adam and I spoke about this in the Tactics podcast, which I'm sure you've listened to. So if you say that. So,
it's on my list for the card on the way back.
Exactly. But what you see in the pitch is like it's not just the 11 players. It's who's there and why, and what type of players you sign. What is the atmosphere like? And it feels like picking a fight with the fans' favourite is another in many decisions that the whole context hasn't been really taken, and it's almost felt like this is how things are going to be. But as we saw pre-match, very quickly things can turn here. Before we get on to that, other players who played well, I thought Derek Cornelius did well. Aside from that, anyone I'm missing? Telo Asgard and Jeji Jigsama, maybe not the end product, but were bright offensively in moments.
I think a shout out for Miovski just for getting his goal, being in the right place at the right time to get it. His service over the last couple of games has been non-existent. I said to Derek on the show the other day, he could have sat beside me in the gantry for those 2 games. The amount of times he saw the ball in proper goal scoring opportunity areas, he had zero service in those games, and you felt a bit sorry for him. He's coming in, he's spoken about the importance of the move for him. He wanted to try and get off and running, and you then come into a side that creates virtually nothing in 2 home games that could have been big moments for him. So I think for him to get that goal, it came at a really good time as well. Rangers obviously getting the Raskin opener. We then score so soon after that, right on the stroke of half time. It basically kills the game. So I think that was a big moment for Miovski, and it looks like he's the first pick at number 9. Now we mentioned Shamiti there coming on. He should have scored late on. You're through 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. Yeah. You expect your striker to score. He doesn't. But it looks like Miovski is the main man in that number 9 role. So a pleasing afternoon for him, I think.
Let's talk about pre-match. You and I were both out the front, taking it in, not with banners in hand ourselves, we should say, but just kind of you've covered Rangers a lot longer than me. Have you seen something like that before? What did you make of it? And as you say, that doesn't go away, that's not placated by one win.
No, it's not. That anger, that sense of frustration, apathy, all the things that we've spoken about, all the words that we've used over recent days and weeks, that's not going to go away just because you beat Hibs 2-0 at Ibrox. That's well done, but what comes next? And what has to come next is a really prolonged run of performances and results from this side, because the first time that this side doesn't win or they drop points in the league, you know what the reaction is going to be. The same questions are going to be asked of the manager. He's still under huge pressure. This does not take, again, as I say in my piece on the site, it doesn't really change the situation as such. So it gives him a stay of execution. We don't have to spend all Sunday frantically phoning people and messaging people to find out if he's been sacked or not. But that possibility still has to be on the table, because you look at the strength of feeling in the fans that were here. The number that weren't here is significant. That can't be ignored. No, this is a side that are turning the fans off. They don't want to make the journeys. They don't want to come and spend the money. They don't want to sit here and watch it. That's unsustainable in football terms, and certainly in financial terms as well. You're losing hundreds of thousands of pounds the longer this goes on. That can turn into millions of pounds if this goes on too long. So I understand why the board, and we saw the fan advisory board minutes last night, I understand why they don't want to get into, we can't keep changing managers all the time. If the manager's not working, you can change it, and you have to change it. There's not been enough to suggest that Russell Martin is working or is going to work. That's what he has to prove. He's had all the backing in the world in terms of finances to go and rebuild this group. He's had all the backing in the world publicly and privately. It's up to him now to try and capitalise on that. If he does, we'll be standing here in a few months' time. Who knows where Rangers will be? If he doesn't, we'll be standing here in a couple of weeks' time, and Rangers have a different guy in the dugout.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't just aimed towards him. It was CEO Patrick Stewart as well. I mean, have you? I know we're speaking about this after a win, so it's a very different tone of conversation as to what it would have been if Rangers had went out. But have you seen that before? And obviously it's this season doesn't exist in isolation. It's not a clean slate, despite that being used at points. But it did feel, again, I go back to it, did feel like a type of atmosphere pre-match that's not going to go away unless this is the start of something and not just a good afternoon in a season where there's not nearly been enough of them.
There's not, and it is an accumulation. It's not people are not just taking to the streets because the last 12 games have not been good enough. it's because it's not been good enough for far too long, and they fear that the same mistakes are being made by new people. So Andrew Kavanagh and the board are new people in the main. Patrick Stewart has not been at the club a long time, but has been at the club long enough to know how things are going to go, has been at the club long enough to make change. People here will tell you that he is making change, other people will say that he's not making the right changes or doing things the right way. If you're Rangers chief exec, you're always going to have people who will back you or not. The Rangers fans, can't speak for everyone, but again, it's a large number of people that were at the front door, that were had those chants, that held up the banners, a number of banners from the Union Bears, more banners against Patrick Stewart than there was against Russell Martin. So the manager is a problem, clearly, because Rangers are not playing well. They're now 11th in the Premiership table, which is just bizarre to even utter that particular sentence. So the manager is a problem. The fans think that Patrick Stewart is a problem as well, and when we speak about the manager having to go on a sustained run and win games and put in performances, Patrick Stewart, I think, has got a lot of work to do to convince these Rangers fans, in whatever manner he chooses to do that. He's got a lot of work to do to convince the Rangers fans that he's the right man to lead this club as well. One interview, one press conference, one action is not going to turn that. If he doesn't know that, he should do, because he's been here long enough.
Rangers unbeaten when Andrew Kavanagh's been at Ibrox this season, so he must be something of a good luck charm. I think he's been here for the Panathinaikos game, Celtic and Hibs. He must be thinking, what's all the fuss about? But yeah, it would be interesting to see what he thought of that game today, and the general atmosphere. Anything else?
Let's save it for Monday morning.
Yeah, let's save it. Quiet Sunday, isn't it?
Well, it's Rangers. Let's not get too far ahead of let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But we'll reconvene on Monday morning, and we'll be back here on Thursday for a bit of European action, and then Livy on Sunday.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that near the time.
Yeah, as ever, who knows? Who knows what will be happening in the world of Rangers in a week. Loads to keep you occupied on the website and the YouTube channel. Thanks as ever for watching. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. About 40-50% of the people watching haven't subscribed, so make Chris's Sunday by clicking on that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video when we go live, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.